You see an interesting place, you send it to a friend, you book a flight, you get there, it's mobbed. There was a quiet little place or restaurant in your city that was fun. Now it's a global photo booth consumed by Instagram users' mission to quench the algorithm's never-ending thirst for the best content. Now your local coffee shop is being rated on TikTok by influencers. Social media is ruining certain cities by sensationalizing activities and places that locals created. Social media is turning cities into commodities. Cities are now reduced to a top 5 YouTube video of places to see and things to do. Why do people take photos in front of a wall of chewing gum in Seattle? Why do people go to Times Square to look at advertisements? People spend thousands of dollars to travel to New York City to stare at the same ads they skip on YouTube. The reason why people do this is the herd mentality. These social media posts crave attention and fuel narcissism. They seek to satisfy the human need to be validated by others. One of the worst parts of this phenomenon is that the places marketed on Instagram aren't the same in real life. Social media masquerades this wanderlust behavior as being wild, adventurous, and enlightening. But it's really just a follow-the-leader exercise of self-promotion and validation seeking. It's not just tourist attractions that are impacted, though. Social media has impacted housing markets in cities, too. You're looking for an apartment for rent, and rents are crazy. You wonder why there's such a shortage of units. Then you look on Airbnb and see thousands of units are for tourists instead of long-term housing. Look at London. The city is home to the most Airbnbs in the world, with over 70,000 listings. At one point, New York had more Airbnb listings than apartments for rent, until they effectively banned Airbnbs from renting for less than 30 days. When you step outside the city, the impacts may be worse. Influencers are ruining nature too. Once remote hiking trails now see as much foot traffic as an escalator at LaGuardia. Social media has turned people into the worst forms of travelers too. Some people now think they are more cultured because they visited these places. It's one of the latest forms of virtue signaling. It's often portrayed as one of the highest forms of self-education, but what's really learned? We get pummeled with ads to become a digital nomad. We are pumped get-rich-quick schemes like drop shipping by wealth gurus, telling us that if we buy their course, we can travel the world for the rest of our life. How is spending your entire life traveling optimal for anyone's personal, professional, family, or relationship goals? That sounds terrible. This isn't a critique of people who travel for work or to see family or want to explore the great outdoors. That's not what's having a negative impact on society. The problem is some people are wasting their time and they don't even know it, while trampling on the authentic local culture along the way. Some locals are now pushing back, asking for less tourism and more life.
Out of Barcelona, with summer travel season underway, tourists are filling the city and protesters are spraying them with water.
People go to Paris. Do they really have any interest in the Eiffel Tower? What is the Eiffel Tower's function other than as a backdrop to an Instagram selfie? People visit the House of Parliament and Big Ben in London. Really? You're interested in British public policy now? You can watch their political debates for free on YouTube anytime you want and save the money. The Louvre? Now people are interested in art? But they've never been to the museum in their own city. Now they have all the free time in the world because they took time out of work. And how do they spend it? Waiting in line at a museum? Don't get me started on the Notre Dame Cathedral. People haven't taken a photo inside a church since their baptism, but will flood Instagram with photos of Notre Dame. Santorini, Greece may be the worst Instagram victim of all. 3 blue roofs and a sunset? There wasn't a beach closer to you? I don't know if Instagram should be collecting a tax from these cities for the tourism they're sending there, or if the city should send Instagram a bill for the havoc they've caused on the local population. Unfortunately, social media's push to travel preys on some people's desire to escape their daily routine. I need a vacation, they say. So they go to a place to do things they don't normally like to do, all to avoid the things they probably should be doing at home. If someone isn't interested in architecture, is it really worth their time to visit the Leaning Tower of Pisa? Or to photograph Venice underwater? Social media has created the platforms for people to no longer travel for their own desire, but to travel to look good in the eyes of others. They take photos of their trip to show you and everyone else in the hopes that you will validate their experience as a good one. And social media is fueling all of this. Now, the only question one contemplates when traveling isn't, what can we learn from where we are going? It's, Did it look as good in person as it did on Instagram? The traveler comes home the same as they went. If you disagree, maybe your travels are different. Maybe you are more enlightened. Maybe you aren't following what everyone else is doing on social media, and you aren't signaling yourself as a more educated person because you've visited more places, and you aren't getting in the way of local residents' daily routine, contributing to the chaos and the local community's demand for services. If so, you're better than me. I realized how silly traveling was when I was in Seattle in line at the Space Needle. I've never been to a World Fair in my life. I couldn't tell you when the last one was or where the next one will be. But for some reason, I was waiting in line to pay money to go to the top of a remnant of the 1962 World's Fair, symbolizing America was ahead in the space race. I don't even have an interest in space. What was I doing there? I was a victim of a tourist trap. I guess all I'm trying to say is whether you are fortunate enough to have the means to travel or not, don't feel guilty if you consider skipping the next trip you don't really have any interest in going on. The local residents of that foregone vacation will thank you. Instead, you have all the resources you need to become an enlightened person of the world while at home, instead of waiting in a line halfway across the globe.